Hello everybody, Raven Knight here, and welcome back to the series that I actually really enjoy working on. So people ask me all the time, Raven, what's your favorite hero? What's your least favorite hero? What do you like about this hero? What do you not like about this hero? And I always say the same thing. I feel like every hero in For Honor brings something good and something bad. And so I've started this series called Of Love and Hate, where I share with you one thing I love and one thing I hate about each hero in For Honor, and I'm doing this by faction. We did the Knight video, and if you want to check that out, please go take a look at it. It was a lot of fun to make. And now we're moving on to the Vikings. I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. I'm not a huge fan of the Vikings overall. It's not that I have anything really against them per se, it's just that they're a little oversaturated, I feel like, and there's just not a whole lot I can say that I really desperately enjoy about them overall, but that doesn't mean there aren't things I don't like about them. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the Vikings and talk about one thing I love and one thing I hate from each one. Starting off with Raider. Love. Probably one of the easiest heroes to master and a great hero for beginners to the game. I'll be honest, if you're brand new to For Honor or thinking about getting involved in it and you want to know a good hero to start with, Raider is your boy. Raider is a great hero to get started with, very easy to figure out, very fun to play. Like, I honestly don't think he's that boring, and his mix-ups are pretty simple to understand. He's a hero that'll get you a lot of wins, but he's not so complicated that you need to spend hours upon hours mastering him. You'll get him pretty quickly, so that's one thing I love about Raider. Hate. I'm going to say this with a lot of the Vikings, I'm afraid, but it comes down to armor, and for the Raider, it's put on a damn shirt. You're going to poke someone's eye out. It really does bother me that Raider is shirtless. And the trailer for Raider says, it's because a Viking's death is determined from birth. Like, his fate is decided from the beginning, so what use have they of armor? I'm like, a lot of use, because you might be able to defy fate in that case, you know? But that's Raider. Warlord. Love. Honestly, he's probably the best and most authentic-looking Viking with the great general overall aesthetic. When I think of a Viking, I usually think of something like Warlord. And I do like the sword and shield combo. Don't get me wrong, axe and shield is probably going to be more stereotypical Viking, and we'll get to that when we talk about Varangian. But honestly, I like the sword and shield setup too. It actually is a subtle way to tie into Warlord's status. Swords were not always carried around by the Vikings because swords typically were just a status symbol. They didn't have access to the good kind of materials to be able to make high quality fighting swords, so swords tended to be used more as status. You tended to get better swords from importing, getting them from other locations, so having him carry around this sword and shield and make them actually functional implies that he is either wealthy or very high up in status, or both, which I think was a subtle little nod that I really appreciate. Hate. Warlord's other nickname is Snorelord, because honestly, he's pretty boring. Now, don't take that to mean he's bad. Warlord is honestly a pretty damn good hero, but he is boring. Quite often, he's pretty easy to read. He has to rely on his headbutt mix-up to be able to open up opponents. Other than that, he turtles. Now, I actually got into a big debate with some people in the past talking about what Warlord is capable of, and a lot of people like to point out, no, Warlord's a harasser. It says so in his thing is a harasser. As someone who's played a lot of Warlord and talked to people who played a lot of Warlord, Warlord's whole thing is either turtling up or counterattacking. You want to focus on your crushing counters, you want to focus on your light parries, the only real harassing you'll do is throwing a lot of lights and a lot of headbutts. That's about it. His heavies are super easy to read. He doesn't have any unblockables. His only undodgeable is his zone. I'll be real honest, Warlord's kind of boring to play. He's cool, but he's kind of boring to play. Berserker. What I love? Well, 2 axes are definitely better than 1. I mean, yeah, I'll be honest. It's hard for me to say much more than that about Berserker. Berserker comes off as kind of this wild character, which I can kind of appreciate. But I think what I like about him, what I genuinely like, is he looks really cool with running around with 2 axes. There's something to be said about trading all defense for good offense, and that's definitely Berserker. Berserker basically took his shield and said, screw that, I'm going to go in all axes blazing. He probably would pull a Roronoa Zoro from One Piece and just stick an axe in his mouth if he could, okay? Which, you know what? I'm here for that. That's kind of cool. Hate. Freaking hyper armor on everything. Like I said with Lawbringer in my previous video, why is it that the most armored character has so little hyper armor, but this character who's running around with minimal armor can just tank all this damage? Don't get me wrong, I get it. He's the only assassin with all this hyper armor because otherwise he'd just be like every other assassin. But I feel like he's got a little too much. To be able to trade this much doesn't make a lot of sense given how much armor he has. But again, I guess that goes into him trading offense for defense, and if you're going to be all offense, I guess you got to blow through some damage, right? But that's Berserker. Valkyrie. Love. Okay, so the spear and shield combination is one of my favorite weapon combinations out there, and I absolutely love seeing a hero who implements it. I tell you no lie when I tell you that spears, I think, are very underrated in terms of pop culture and media. Spears are very easy to use, very easy to train in, and if I had to arm a medieval army with one thing, either a sword or a spear, I'd arm them all with a spear, because it's much easier to train an army in the use of a spear, easier to maintain a spear, and you can use them much better in army kind of battles. So seeing a hero with a spear and shield is pretty awesome, and I think Valkyrie looks really cool while implementing it. But that does lead into my hate. Why won't you show your face? Here's the thing. Y'all may tease me for this and may make this kind of a joke, but I'm actually kind of serious about this. We've seen Nobushi's face. We've seen Peacekeeper's face. We've seen Nusha's face. We've seen all these heroes' faces. Valkyrie's the only OG girl who we have not seen her face yet. And I don't know, I kind of want to see it. I think that she'd be very pretty. I think that she's got a very pretty face under that helmet. She's too shy to show it. Come on, girl, show your face. I'd love to see it. Highlander. Love. I'll be real. I used to detest Highlander because I was terrible at playing him and I was terrible at fighting them. But with his new rework, he's very fun to play. He's got really good mix-up potential, and now he's honestly one of my favorite Vikings to play. He's huge, he's burly, he's broad, hey, a lot like me, and he's got a giant sword. I know it's not historically accurate, but that giant sword it's kind of fire. And plus, watching people like Havoc and some others play him so expertly, I'm kind of jealous. It was kind of funny. I was doing a stream the other day, and Havoc asked if I'd been training with him because I was playing Highlander really well. Ironic since I lost the fight I was playing, but neither here nor there. Point being, I actually really enjoy playing him. I might not be great at him, but I really enjoy playing him, and that says a lot considering I used to not like him. So I would say the thing I love about him is definitely his rework. What I hate... This is kind of silly, I'll be honest, because there's not a lot I hate about him, but when are we getting a Highlander, mommy? When can we get a hot Scottish babe? I have seen some ladies from Scotland, and they are chef's kiss, okay? I want to see some hot Scottish mamas, if you know what I'm talking about. Shaman. Love. Shaman is actually one of the more unique and all-around fun heroes to play with a personality all her own. One thing that I really like about For Honor is that each hero seems to have their own personality. And my big fear with Shaman was she was just going to be another Berserker stand-in. You know, this wild, crazy individual. But that wasn't what Shaman gave us. Shaman gave us a personality that was distinct from Berserker. See, Berserker's the kind of person, like, you think of him like a dog in the sense that he's an attack dog. He's going to go out and he's going to bite the throat out of his opponent. Shaman, she's a little different. Yeah, she'll still bite the throat out of her opponent, but we're not entirely sure Shaman is toilet trained. We're not entirely sure that she's housebroken. She is an animal. And at first I didn't like it, but now I kind of like it because it stands out. When you think Shaman, that is now what you think of. That's kind of what you expect from her. And I'll be honest, that's kind of awesome. I actually think that she does stand out from the other characters and the Vikings in particular, and that's not easy to do when people keep saying like, all these Vikings kind of meld into each other. Not Shaman. She sticks out. But what I hate, I'll be honest, I don't like the majority of her hairstyles and piercings. Most of them just don't do anything for me. Look, here's the thing. If she's a wild child, that's one thing, but some of her hairstyles make her look like a Punky Brewster. Like, she looks like she's about to go to a rock concert, and I'm like, that doesn't really mesh. If she had wild hair or uncombed hair, that's one thing, but almost all of her hair is mohawk styled. If she's a wild, crazy animal of an individual, where's she getting these hairstyles from? Who's doing it for her? She can't be doing it to herself. And then the piercings. Call it a personal preference. I don't like all those piercings. For me, a lady looks fine with just earrings. I think that's fine. I don't think you need more than that. Call me traditional if you like, but the traditional ladies were able to produce the next generation. You know, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Jmangun. Love. I'll be real, Jmangun had one of the best introductions of all the Harbingers, with the hands-down best game event mode out of all the Harbingers, with that awesome Jmangun event game mode. I constantly want them to keep bringing that back. It is so much fun. Plus, Jmangun alone, I really didn't know what they were going to do with Jmangun. There comes a point where the Vikings are going to run out of weapons. They're going to run out of weapons to give. So I was not sure what Jmangun was going to come with, and seeing the hammer, I was very skeptical, but actually, I kind of like it. I think the hammer goes hard, literally, and I think that it's a very cool weapon and they implemented it well. But what I hate, Maelhorn's screaming voice annoys me. I know some people think it's funny. I find it annoying. I think it's really dumb that a lot of people talk about, Tiandi's so loud, Varingian's so loud. Have you heard Maelhorn? Dear Lord. Plus, a lot like Shaman, a lot of the headpieces just look ugly and filthy, and I don't know. You know the Vikings were cleanly, right? They actually did clean themselves. Just saying. Varingian Guard. Love. Okay, so I'm gonna say this up front. I'm not a big fan of Varingian Guard overall, but I will say this: Varingian Guard's overall all guard is one of my favorites for how satisfying it is, and the overall animations of the heavy and light attacks feel unique, despite being a similar to weapon to all the other heroes. Here's the problem I saw. People keep asking me, hey, what kind of weapon set do you think they can give the Vikings now? And before Varingian Guard, I said, I would say axe and shield, but how would you do that? Wouldn't they just fight just like Warlord? Wouldn't they fight just like Berserker? It's the same weapon set, just packaged a little differently. How do you make that work? And to my surprise, they made it work. They actually made this work. It is unique. Her animation styles are different from everyone else's. Her all guard is a little unique. It has options to it. So I must give them credit. Varingian Guard surprised me by being more unique than I was expecting. What I hate. There are times I feel like her all-guard counter is inconsistent, meaning it can be hard to time when to attack and when not to, and I think overall she's just a very oppressive character. She's a lot like Ocelot to me in the sense that it's kind of a Oonga-Boonga brain kind of playstyle, which I just do not get invested in. That's my biggest problem with Varingian Guard. I know some of you are probably thinking, wait, you don't mind the fact that she's female gender-locked? I mean, it wouldn't have been my preference, but I don't care. Like, it's not something that keeps me up at night. It's just one of those things that, I would have preferred this. If you're talking about things that I hate playing against her. That's what I hate about Varingian Guard. I hate playing against her. And I'm not even that fond of playing her because sometimes I feel like she's just kind of boring to play as, but that is what I have to say about that. And that concludes all the Vikings as we have them. To be honest, guys, like I said, the Vikings aren't my favorite faction. They're just not the ones that I gravitate towards. But, like I said, every hero brings something kind of cool with them and kind of bad with them. And I think it's important to acknowledge the things we love and the things we hate. Even characters that we think we despise, we need to acknowledge some of the goods about them. And even our mains and favorites, you gotta acknowledge some of the bads about them, too. Understanding the goods and the bads of everything help us get a full and better picture of everything else. So, that finishes up the Viking. Next time we'll do the Samurai. And until then, I will see you in my next video. Take care.